Hello, universe. Welcome to my channel. You probably have lots of goals like, I want to be a millionaire, I want to be happy, I want to do all these big, wonderful things. And I want to show you how and why that isn't happening. So, if you're interested in learning how to stop setting goals and start goal achieving, continue watching and I'll show you lots of different techniques. And as always, I have my handy dandy notebook here, so if you see me looking down, I'm just referencing my notes to make sure I can give you the best information I possibly can. So there's a few different reasons why your goal setting probably isn't working, and hopefully it's not both of these reasons. The first reason is that you're just simply doing too much. You have way too much on your schedule, you're really excited and ambitious to do all of the things, and you're totally exhausted. Like, let's just paint a little picture here. Let's say that you have to go to work, you have to go see your cousin after work because you volunteered to make a blueprint for her doghouse, and now that you're volunteering for that, it reminds you that you're also volunteering on this other thing, but you also have lunch with your sister, so you should probably try to reconfigure that. It's a lot to do. So where is sleep, eating, fun, and self-care supposed to fit into that schedule? Of course, it's not going to happen. And you're probably starting to begin to battle with your sense of inadequacy, maybe even your entire sense of self-esteem. That is no good and highly avoidable. The other reason why your goals might not be happening is because you simply don't know how to make a goal. And you might be thinking like, well, of course I know how to make a goal. Of course I'm going to Japan in 6 months. Well, do you have your passport? Have you learned enough Japanese in order to have manners and be polite? Do you actually have enough money in order to get to and from the airport and actually enjoy the experience and eat? What about that transportation? I mean, there's a lot to consider here. So making sure that you have all of the things that you need prepared is part of the goal setting process. And I will show you a bunch of different techniques on how to make that happen. So this video is going to be a lot about setting realistic goals and what that even means, as well as a bunch of different styles, because there's no wrong way to make a goal. It's really whatever works best for you. So feel free to skip around, hop throughout the video, and see what information is most valuable to you. And I will just be here making some jokes along the way and hopefully giving you some good examples that will help really transform your goal achieving methods. So who am I? My name is Sequoia Sage Garza-Keith. I'm a TengDios living two-spirit Chicana Artevista en Narica. That's a bunch of really big words that we can go into on a personal visit if you want to set an appointment with me to learn more about your style in your lifestyle. So let's just get right into it. The first thing I want to tell you about is something that is not even on my radar, or wasn't before I started making this video. And it just so happened that as I started the script, I went to this class. So I'm also on a yoga ball, so I'm probably moving around a lot. The little tracking thing on my phone is probably freaking out. So anyway, I went to this event for Beauty Boost of Denver. If you guys aren't familiar, I highly recommend checking that out. It's a wonderful organization that really gets women together and helps support female entrepreneurs. And it's not in a cheesy kind of way. It's a very BIPOC friendly and very women focused environment. So I highly recommend checking them out. They're in a ton of different cities. Anyway, my friend Cass, she owns her own business called Inspired Warrior Project. And during this event that I attended called Design Your Life, she showed us a really wonderful technique on how to identify areas of your life that you might want to apply some goals to. So the idea is that you have a big old circle here. And let's visualize this. I'll try to put up a little image right here, but I'm not very tech savvy, so we'll just visualize with my hands to start. So let's imagine a bunch of little quadrants. We have 8 quadrants, okay? And each quadrant has a different subject area. So let's say we have lifestyle, health, fitness, personal life, relationships, friendships, and finance or something, okay? So all of these different quadrants have 10 little notches in it. And the idea is that you fill up the notches into the point that you feel it's like a scale out of 1 to 10 kind of thing. So you fill out, say, finances isn't feeling great, so you fill out 3 little notches. Maybe your relationships are feeling amazing, so you fill out 8 notches. So that way you really get a full scope picture of your life, and you can lay out some different goals and foundations for what desires improvement. It doesn't mean that you have to. If you're comfortable where you are, that's okay too. I just thought that was really brilliant. Be sure to check out the caption below for Beauty Boost of Denver, as well as Cass's Inspired Warrior Project page. I'll also include a little link down in the caption below, so that way you can find that tool as well. It's amazing. I found it very helpful. Next thing, we have the transition method. This is something that I identified on my own and later learned the term for. I've always referred to it as the transition method. There's tons of different names for all of these things as things go. But the transition method is really for people that are just starting to get into goal setting and they don't really know where their focus is supposed to be. Say like you do the Cass's wheel and now you're like, okay, I'm ready to do something, but there's so much to do. And you don't know what's going to work, or you don't know what's going to really improve your overall life and health and well-being. So the transition method is a really good place to start. I'm just going to give a personal example of my experience with the transition method. Really, it was the first time I discovered it. Back in high school, I had super, super bad cystic acne. Like, I would show some pictures, but I don't even think I really took much because I was so embarrassed and I wore so much makeup to cover it up. Yeah, I don't wear makeup now, as you can tell, but like I wore so much makeup. And I really wanted to get it under control. I mean, I thought I was eating well and I was a super big athlete, so I was doing all kinds of sports and fitness, and I thought that that was what I needed to be doing for my health. So I decided to go to an esthetician and dermatologist to see if I could consult an expert on why my skin was so bad. That was a very, very vital moment. I could have tried to do all the internet research, but like WikiHow isn't going to really necessarily know my personal chemistry. And so this expert provided a lot of insight to what was going on. It actually was only one big issue. I had an excess of candida buildup, which is extra sugar that I'm putting into my body that's basically coming out through my skin. And I was like, I don't really eat a whole lot of sugar. And it was because I was eating so much bread. I will tell you how I solved this problem without cutting out bread, because carbs are not the devil. But she gave me a bunch of resources on how to fix my skin, basically. So what I did is I made a list of all the things that she said, and I picked the easiest thing from this list to make it a habit. This habit was very, very easy at the beginning because I just wanted to cut out dairy, and I didn't eat a whole lot of dairy to begin with. And dairy has lactose in it, which can contribute to a candida buildup in the skin. So I stopped drinking all dairy products, and I really, really cut down my cheese to maybe just a little bit of Parmesan on my cheese once a week or so. I started to notice some improvement in my skin, so it was super easy for me to stick with it. Once that was a habit, I started to go to the next thing on my list, which was to cut out my excess salt intake. And as an athlete, I had a crazy salt craving. And this was pretty tricky. So I spent about a month or two trying to make this a habit to remove the salt from my plate, quite literally. And once I got comfortable with this being part of my lifestyle change, and really truly, like when I say habit, I mean like doing it passively, not habit as in like I'm doing it because I'm thinking about it. Like this is just what I do now. I like that it's zooming in right there. Like it's an intense moment. This tracking thing is new to me. And once it was a habit, I really started to see massive improvement in my skin. And because I saw that improvement, I was able to get that confidence to start going to the next step, which was stop wearing makeup, at least on the surface of my skin. I still wear a little bit around my eyes, and maybe I'll do a little fun lip here and there. But it took a lot for me to get that confidence back. And my skin was so damaged. I had severe scarring. So she gave me a bunch of techniques on how to fix the scarring on my skin. And again, I could have just gone to the store and picked any product that like promised results, but my skin was super sensitive, so I didn't want to be using most stuff in the grocery store anyway. And I wouldn't have known what product was actually going to be making a difference if I had tried a bunch of stuff to begin with. Or, God forbid, I had done everything on the list all at once and then was like, wow, this is overwhelming, it's not working, I'm over it. That wouldn't have been a failure per se. Again, it would be back to that number one reason why goals don't work. It just was too much. So the transition method is literally to take one thing, transition it into your lifestyle, literally a passive habit, and then move on to the next thing. So it's a transitional state from one thing to the next thing. Right now, I'm currently using the transition method to cut out plastic in my life. And the general rule is if I have to replace it, I am getting a sustainable option, which is glass or leather or maybe even cork or wood. And it's been very, very difficult, but it's been very helpful because I've noticed a massive improvement in my lack of trash, which is really great. And let's get over to the, oh, I missed one thing in my notes right here. This is why I have the notebook, guys. This is great. One thing that I really, really want to emphasize is that with the transition method, setting a deadline is not the goal. So like saying on March 5th, my skin's going to be better. Like, you can't really control that. So no matter what your goal is, it is super important to make sure that you know the difference between whether it's an opportunity for a soft goal or a hard goal. And a soft goal is something that's built around your sense of adequacy, your self-confidence. And when you know you need a hard goal, that can be when you know you just got to get something done. It's something tangible that can be started and completed. Give yourself grace with this. Give yourself some patience with this. Oh, my phone is going to die. I'm going to plug it in really quickly. Okay, cool. We're all good. So you can use confidence as a landmark, basically. So once you achieve a certain degree of confidence, now you can add the next thing on your goal list. So let's get over to the next one, which is the not to-do list. This is really good for people who way overdo it, like doing all the things, or people, again, who are just beginning. This is also another really good opportunity to use their TengDios speeds. I have a whole video on TengDios speeds. I don't know if I can put a video right here, but if I can, I'll put that right there. And it's a really good way to kind of like really recalibrate your own habits. So if you know for a fact that after work you end up on the couch or in bed on social media and you're there until 8 p.m. and you're like, oh my God, I haven't made dinner. Oh, I missed that meeting. There's like a lot happening, and it's mostly just because you haven't given yourself the opportunity to do the things that you should have been doing because you ended up on the couch scrolling. So a not to-do list would come into play by simply stating a fact of the day. I will not get on my couch until the appropriate time, being maybe after dinner. Or I won't get into bed until the appropriate time, which should really be bedtime, but you know what, to each their own. So I have used this a lot when I end up like off of my goals. So instead of like, oh, really, I should be doing this and I should be doing that, the shoulds are out the window and we can implement the not to do. So instead of, let's say a habit that I have right now is putting off going to the gym. And it's not because I'm trying to put it off, I really am doing too much right now. But what I should be doing is instead of going to the gym, I should not be sleeping in. So that's kind of on my not to do right now. And when I say sleeping in, I'm not even sleeping, I'm just like end up on my phone too. But so that kind of brings us over to the next goals, which is the SMART and STAR goals. So SMART and STAR goals are basically the same thing. The biggest difference is that SMART stands for specific, measurable, attainable, timely, relevant, or realistic. STAR stands for specific, timely, attainable, and realistic. The biggest difference is that the M doesn't exist in the STAR goals. And I just want to throw that out there because a lot of people who are really into like the differently abled spaces, this might be an ableist term that you might want to stay away from. So if you're implementing any sort of these goals into a community that has learning deficiencies or like I have dyslexia, it might be mindful to use the STAR goals instead of the SMART goals. But I personally prefer the SMART goals because when I use the M, which is the measurable aspect, I can actually track my progress, which turns anything intangible into a tangible thing I can actually visualize and see directly. That being said, I'm going to kind of go over a goal so that way you guys can see actually how it works. So I'm going to be looking at my notebook here for a moment to kind of walk you guys through this. So right now, I am working on going to Italy in the fall and I'm working on backpacking. For those of you guys who know, I have fibromyalgia, so this might sound really crazy to be like, I'm going to go on a backpacking trip, even though like I really do have a hard time getting out of bed some days. This requires a lot of fitness in my daily routine in order to make this happen. So let's go through the SMART model. For my S, which is a specific goal, I want to be going to the gym every single weekday, preferably in the morning. Notice that this SMART goal, this specific goal, has a preference. This preference can later be turned into the entire goal. So instead of just every single weekday, preferably in the morning, I can shift it to, okay, I'm going every single day, but now I want to be going every single morning. That is something that can be fine-tuned later via the transition method. M, so measurable. In order to make sure that I'm actually on top of my goals and I can monitor how I'm doing or if it's progressing or if I need a new tactic, I am going to be logging all of the weight that I'm using on different machines, and so I can see how it's progressing and how long I can run without stopping. This is all about my endurance. So this really, really clarifies what is being tracked as well as how it is being tracked. So I actually have a log that I've built on Evernote. I highly recommend Evernote if you are a digital note taker. Very, very valuable in order to you can build in spreadsheets. You can also implement different calendars. So if there's different goal deadlines you want to put on there that you don't want on your standard calendar, you can build calendars for that as well. So M, just notice that it has a one place that it can be logged. I am so against having your goals all over the place. Like, oh, I wrote it on the sticky note, or it's on this notepad on the fridge, or I wrote it on this napkin in my car. Okay, you're gonna have a very hard time visualizing your measurable pieces if you can't really keep it all together in one place. So, A of the SMART goals is attainable. So, one of the things that I want to keep in mind is that with my fibromyalgia, I need to make sure that my goal is kind of fluctuating for these moments that I might not be able to go to the gym every single day. So the attainable aspect of it is so that way I will maintain going to the gym on the days that I feel absolutely best. This is in order to not constrict my life. And it is super important when you're goal setting that you don't constrict important areas of your life. If you don't have room for play or self-care or eating well or friends and family, you are not going to be successful in your goal setting because you're going to be feeling exhausted. Make room for these things. Even put them in your calendar if you have to. So let's get into the R, which is realistic and or relevant. So I am really doing this in order to make sure that I can be strong and stable and not in as much pain when I go to Italy in the fall. This goal is really important because you want to make sure that when you are analyzing how this goal fits into your life, which is the relevancy of it or how realistic it is again not constricting, but also making sure that you can reach it, which is back to that attainable. If it doesn't fit in your life or you can't really wrap your brain around how it's realistic or relevant, it might be time to reconsider or reconfigure how this goal is written down. Or maybe if the goal is even relevant at all, and that's okay. So let's get over to the timely, which is the T of our SMART. I want to make sure that I am adding one additional day every other week of going to the gym. So let's say in 2 weeks, I will be going to the gym 3 days a week rather than just 2. This is within reason because I want to make sure that I'm not like every single week I'm going to add a day because that's not realistic for my body and my method. So I'm using a gentle deadline or a gentle goal here. So that way, once I reach that consistency of the 2 days a week, then I can get more comfortable adding that third day in. And as much as I have it on the every other week, that's just a loose goal and be like, okay, this is what I'm visioning. This is my timeline. And if that doesn't work, I still just want to make sure that once I'm comfortable, I will add on that last day. Again, knowing the difference between whether the goal itself, it requires a hard or soft goal is going to be really important. And also, if you know yourself and that soft goals don't work, okay, put a deadline in the calendar, make alarms for it, make a halfway point, this project should be halfway done or I should be halfway to my goal at this point in your calendar. Make sure that you are all set up. And that requires a decent amount of self-reflection. So spend your time doing Cass's wheel and the transition method. Play with the not to-do list before you come into this, because if you aren't comfortable with reflecting on your desires, your lifestyle, and really the parts of you that make you who you are, you're going to have a very hard time making the decision between whether you need a hard goal or a soft goal. All right, so I want to show you a couple of things that I made. Okay, I officially have an Etsy account. So the first two things that I have on here are a SMART goal breakdown, and I made all of this. I'm so excited about it. So every single, so I have a SMART goal version and a star goal version. It was like a tongue twister. Each one has 3 different pages for it. So I have one that breaks down like what it is, and then I have another one that shows you like how to use it, and then I have a tracker so you can actually log when everything is getting done. And on the flip side, I just have the star goal version as well. My favorite part of this is the fact that I have a dream card on here. So if you want to keep a little piece of your goals with you at all times, you can fill out this little dream card, and you can keep it in your wallet, in your car, maybe put on your mirror, on your vanity if you wear makeup, or whatever works best for you. Maybe it's on your desk. It's a really good way to keep that reminder constantly in your bubble. And also remember to use your TengDios beads. So building habits, TengDios beads are absolutely amazing to make that happen. Again, look at that video. I'll try to link the video down below in the caption again, because I'm not super tech savvy. I'm working on it. The editing on these videos will get better as I go. Off to the next version, we have breakdown goals. Breakdown goals was something that was introduced to me by a friend the very moment I met him, pretty much. His name is Keegan. I highly recommend if you meet him, spend time being present with him. Oh my God, I love Keegan. Maybe I'll put his little Instagram down in the caption below too. I should let him know I'm doing that though. Anyway, the very first moment that we met, he like sat down next to me. It was like a super fun night, and he like just out of nowhere like asked me, he's like, "What is your goal right now?" And I was like, And I thought about it, and I just kind of gave the biggest goal that was on my radar. He's like, "Well, what about your goal for the month?" I was like, "Okay." I had to think about it, and I told him whatever I told him, and then he's like, "What about the week?" So I said that, and then the day, and then it got down to the hour, and I got down to the moment. When it got down to the moment, that's where it really clicked for me. I was like, this is such a valuable tool in order to kind of bring myself back down to like the fact that goals don't have to be this big, ambiguous monster that we have a hard time zooming in on. It can be very, very small moments. I mean, the biggest things that have ever been done are built of small moments. So something I just want to throw out there is that you can also use the breakdown goals as a form of meditation to a certain degree. So I have a little example here I will go over. So let's say you want to use it as a form of mindfulness, and your big goal could simply be, don't forget people's names. So if you're using breakdown goals, I just a little caveat. If you're using breakdown goals to break down a big goal into smaller ones, they should all be related or cohesive. If you're using it as a form of mindfulness, you don't have to have them be cohesive or connected at all. So big goal, maybe you don't want to be forgetting people's names as easily. Monthly, maybe you want to try something new every single month. And weekly, maybe this week you have to send a package to someone and you really need to get it in the mail. Daily, do some breath work, and so you can be present with yourself just at some point throughout the day. Hourly, drink some water. Speaking of, hey. And then we also have our moment one, which would be listening attentively. Make sure that when you're using breakdown goals that they are very appropriate to the time that you have available. If you're trying to try something new every moment, I could only imagine a few scenarios where that would even be possible, and I really hope that if you're in that scenario, you're okay. But really take your time to acknowledge the amount of energy that you have to give these different, more or less, moments. So we're going to break down even further into something that I've built off of the breakdown goal model, which is something I call the 4x4. This was inspired by... This was inspired by a peer-reviewed article I read on NCBI about how we view the number 4, which sounds super strange, and I'll get into it in a minute. But we want to make sure that we keep our to-do lists and our goal setting below a certain amount of things, because I'm just going to throw out an example here. Let's say you're at work, your phone's dead or something, and you can't take notes, and your boss tells you 7 things that you need to do by 5 p.m. Okay, let's say you have to send an email to Sally. You have to get a package out to USPS by 2 o'clock. You have to make sure that you switch out the bills for smaller bills at the bank by 10 a.m. and blah, blah, blah. Carry on. How many of these goals are you actually going to be able to remember and recall, especially since there's like a time associated with each thing on the to-do list? If you're doing it right off the bat and you're able to do it kind of all at once, you might be more likely to finish more of them. Or if you have a really great memory doesn't hurt for sure. But generally speaking, if 5 p.m. rolls around and you haven't completed everything on that to-do list without being able to reference the to-do list itself, you're probably lucky to maybe get 3 or 4 of those things done to a T. Maybe 5 things, but all 7 things probably aren't going to remember all of them. And that's okay. The reason for that is because on the NCBI article, which I'll also have linked down below so you can read that and learn about kind of the neural pathways around that. Yeah, that's not my scope. I just like reading about it. I don't Anyway, so let's think about how we have developed as a species. You can hold like 4 apples, right? They can fit in your hand. Anything tangible is going to be generally less than 5. I mean, in your hands. Like if you take a fistful of rice, you're not going to be able to count every single one, like just by looking at it. Be like, that is certainly 200,000 pieces of rice in my hand. I don't even know if that would even fit in your hand. So you get the idea. If we're looking at something 5 or above, it automatically breaks down in our mind to numbers less than 4. So we have a number of 5, you're going to break it down into 3 and 2. As this gets less tangible, it is less easy to remember and recall these different things. So again, back to that recall, if you have more than 4, say those 7 things that your boss told you, you are not going to remember those very well. And that is not, again, I want to emphasize, it's not a failure on your part. It's simply that you are not designed to remember that many things at once as a species. And I do want to emphasize that this 4x4 thing, the article itself was done, the whole test was actually done on adolescents, but the very end of the article says something super funny. It says, this keeping things in recall under 4 may be ideal for all humans. So as a human, 2 humans, I think it's worth trying. And I'm going to break it down even further. So a 4x4 goal, we're going to just stick on like the fitness thing so that way we can kind of follow this together. My overall goal, so the big thing is having one big goal, and we're going to break it down further. So one big goal, mine is to go backpacking in the fall in Italy. So every single season until then, I'm going to break it down into 4 smaller goals. So we're just going to follow one thread all the way through because I could tell you every piece of my 4x4 and you're going to be bored beyond your mind. And this video is already pretty long as is. So I want to really express that each goal that you add does not multiply into 4 more. It's that every single bit of time only has a maximum of 4. So each season you have a cap of 4 goals. Each month you have a cap of 4 goals. Each week you have a cap of 4 goals, daily 4 goals. Really, really important, because if you're breaking each goal into 4 individual ones, you're going to have 30,000 different things to do every single day, and that's not going to be helpful. So my spring goal for this upcoming season, which is, I just also want to throw out that the new year does not start in January. It really starts in March. That's when spring happens. That's where the old civilizations used to start their year, especially the Mesoamericans, which is where my people are from. So March is the new year. I start kind of my 4x4 in January just to kind of get myself mentally prepped. Okay, yeah, this is what I want to do. This is how I want it to look. And I can start kind of getting the building blocks so that way I can hit the ground running in March when the season starts to warm up and everything is starting to go into full bloom, such as our goals should as well. Spring, I want to be going to the gym every single weekday, preferably in the morning. There's that goal again. And each one I broke down into SMART goals as well. Every single week in March, or the first, the goals that I have for March, I want to make sure that I am very patient with getting up to 4 days out of the week going to the gym, and then each week in March I want to make sure that I go on at least one decent run. So every single day of the first week of March I want to try to go on a run. And then I have some other things around there too, like getting my backpack sized and going to REI, seeing if there's different things I need to size down on in terms of weight. There's some other things on that list as well. But you get the idea, it just kind of gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So there's a whole big vision of going to go backpacking for 2 weeks in Italy in the fall. It's like, wow, that's a really big goal. But really all it is just trying to run every day. I can get there. So, something that's really important about when you're making goals as well, and I should have said this previously in the SMART goal thing as well, but we're here now, so we're just going to go for it, is that you write your goals down in present tense, meaning that is active, or even in past tense, like I have done that, or I am doing, not I am going to do. So this is really valuable because the way that we think really, really changes the way that we behave. If we are going to be setting up all of these things like I'm going to do, now we got this like literal wall we're just like pushing against slowly, and it's like we're getting constrained. Okay, if you write it in first person, present tense, or past tense, it's now behind you. You can reflect on it, you can visualize yourself in the position of already having achieved it. That is so important to bringing our nervous system down when we're looking at our goals. Because if you can visualize yourself already having done it, you are so much closer. I just learned the statement the other day that the body cannot go where the mind has not. Put your mind there so you can physically go there, okay? Now we are off to the next one. This is the final one of the video, I promise. Oh, I forgot. I made a tool for this too. Okay, before I get there. Ta-da! Okay, this is the 4x4 breakdown. This is also on Etsy. I have it broken down in seasons. So if you want to do just the spring one, you can do just the spring one. You can do a summer one, or you can purchase the whole year. So I have different breakdowns of the breakdowns, which is kind of fun. I'm really happy with the way that it turned out. And so every little thing has like all these little things to hype you up along the way. And at the end of each season, I built in an opportunity to reflect on your goals or your experience with it. And so some of them have some little prompts on there. You don't have to follow the prompts, but I think it could be beneficial if this is a whole new thing for you. If you've never been into goal setting, it would be amazing for you to be able to look back and be like, wow, okay, I did that. That felt good. That didn't. Here's what we learned, and here's what we're going to do better in the future. And if you choose to take on the whole year, which again starts in March, you have time to get this started. You also have a reflection for the whole thing. And it has a little guide on the bottom of kind of how to do that whole big reflection, because that's a lot of things that you might have done this year or this past year. Now we can move on to the last thing, which is using goals as a form of manifestation. And if you are analytical or like a very, very diligent type A type of person, you might be like, how do you, that doesn't even make any sense. It's like an oxymoron. Trust me, okay? So using a to-do list or goals as a form of manifestation, really just brain dump everything that you want to do. Whether it's big, whether it's little, whether it's something you want to turn into a habit, whether it's something you want to achieve, whether it's somewhere you want to go, dump it all out there. Write it down, present or past tense, and then put that whole list somewhere that you maybe look at every once in a while, not daily. I personally put it in textbooks that I reference on occasion. So when I find them later, sometimes it could be 6 months that I find it later, or 3 months. Sometimes it's like almost 2 years later that I find them. Make sure you don't put it somewhere too prominent, but prominent enough that it doesn't get lost or gotten rid of. This is such a weird way of looking at things, because when you first get it out of your system, again, the body cannot go where the mind has not. If you put your mind there, you're already kind of getting the gears turning and getting things in motion. That's not to say that the hard work isn't valuable, because it absolutely is. That's what the rest of these previous goals were all for. But this is to really take like the brakes on and just like sit back, relax, and let the things just kind of flow as they need to. I actually accidentally did this with my 4x4 last year. I kind of forgot that I made it. Last year was the first year that I made one. And I actually found it to be very helpful. There were lots of things that I did on a daily basis that I wouldn't have done otherwise, because I didn't recognize the value of breaking my goals down into daily and moment availability. But when I looked at the bigger picture at the, actually I looked at it in December, so just recently, I looked at all of it and I was like, oh my God. I thought in my mind, I was going to look at it and be like, I totally forgot that I needed to do all of this. But I ended up looking at it and I found that probably over 50% of it had gotten done regardless of paying attention to it. And I've done this for years and years and years. I still have to-do lists from like middle school of like big fantasy things I want to do. And I just keep them strategically around in my environment. But this was one that was like big life-changing moments that I actually got to accomplish without even realizing it. One of the goals on my 4x4 was to, for reference, last year I thought I was going to go with 4 major goals. I was going to break down into 4 smaller ones. This year I decided just one big one will be a lot more tangible. So again, you can do it however you want. There's no wrong way to make a goal. But I wrote 4 big ones, and one of them was I wanted to have a speech on TED Talk. And I wanted to write my whole speech out and submit it and da-da-da. And I didn't quite do that. I did get half of the speech written and a lot of research done on it. But what I actually ended up doing that was well beyond my scope was I wrote 1,000 pages of my workbook, which will be released soon. If you haven't seen the previous videos, you can still get a subscription for the ones that still exist, but the full print version is going to be coming out sooner than later. That's a video for another time. But I was stunned. I was like, okay, I didn't write the speech, but I wrote 1,000 pages. That's amazing. Another one of those goals was that I wanted to open up a tea shop so I could kind of have a physical location for all the things that I wanted to do. I didn't end up opening the tea shop, but I ended up finding someone generous enough to donate their entire basement for all of the activism and community outreach that I do. So no overhead, and we opened up a physical location. That was huge. We had like 30 people show up to the opening for a basement. It was amazing. I'm so proud of myself. But I was so excited to look back at all these things and be like, wow, I really did that. So consider just getting the things out of your brain, letting it go, and letting the magic happen on its own. Because if you already have your mind, again, where it needs to be, you are already on your way. So that is all that I have for you right now. Again, my biggest thing that I want you to take away from this is that there's no right way to make a goal. If it works for you, do that. If there's little parts and pieces of this video that you found very helpful, great, do that. Nothing that I'm saying should be more valuable than your own intuition. That being said, I do want to backtrack a little bit and mention that all the Etsy stuff will be linked down in the caption below. The blog will be mentioned down in the caption below as well. That's going to have some bonuses, including a couple prompts around the goal setting, specifically around the SMART goals and 4x4. So check that out if you want some extra information and to get these videos and my blog put into your inbox every time that there's a new one released. And also check out the Inspired Warrior Project as well as the Beauty Boost. I'll have that all linked down below. I am so excited that you watched this whole thing through. If you did, maybe add a little caption or caption comment with a butterfly emoji in it so that way I can see all of you transitional folk out there that are looking to change their lives. I'm happy that you're on this journey with me, and I can't wait to see you on the other side. TengDios. Adios.